Hello everyone, my name is Rupak. Today I will be discussing about Margaret Atwood's novel The Oryx and Crake, an unsettling piece of speculative fiction. I'll start by giving a brief introduction about the author and then move on to the story itself. And then we will explore the story's characters and major themes discussed in the story. Margaret Atwood, one of the most influential writers in modern literature. Born in 1939 Canada, she has written poetry, essays, and many award winning novels. Atwood likes to explore topics of gender, politics, technology, and environmental crisis. Although people call her novels as science fiction, she herself prefers the term speculative fiction. Oryx and Crake is a good example of that because the technologies talked about in this novel seem disturbingly plausible. They are based on real scientific evidence and also real scientific technologies that are discovered. The story is set in a post-apocalyptic world after humanity has been almost entirely wiped out. The main character, who calls himself the Snowman, seems to be the last surviving human. He lives near a group of strange genetically engineered beings known as the Crakers. These Crakers are peaceful, innocent, and free from many of the aggressive and destructive traits that humans have. Snowman becomes something like their guardian and storyteller. The novel moves back and forth between two timelines. In the present, Snowman struggles to survive in a world that has collapsed, food is scarce, dangerous hybrid animals roam freely, and the environment is unstable. In the past timeline, we follow Snowman as a child and a young adult, when he was known as Jimmy. Through Jimmy's memories, we learn about the society that existed before the collapse, a world dominated by powerful biotechnology corporations where genetic modification, pharmaceutical experimentation, and environmental degradation were completely normalized. This earlier world is divided into two areas. The wealthy, scientists, and corporate employees live in protected compounds with strict security, while the poor and ordinary people live in the chaotic, neglected plebe lands. In this unequal society, Jimmy grows up alongside his extraordinarily intelligent friend Glenn, who becomes known as the Crake. Crake is fascinated by science and technology, and he sees human emotions such as love, jealousy, and violence as flaws in our design. He grows increasingly convinced that humanity is doomed because of these so-called defects. Eventually, Crake becomes a high-level scientist and secretly works on a radical plan to wipe out humanity from the face of the earth and replace it with genetically engineered ones that will live peacefully and sustainably. This is where Oryx enters the story. Oryx is a mysterious and gentle woman with a traumatic past. Both Jimmy and Crake are drawn to her, but for very different reasons. Jimmy loves her emotionally, while Crake sees her as a symbol of humanity's exploitation, something he thinks the new species would be freed from. Oryx works with Crake in his project, but her true feelings remains ambiguous. Through her, Atwood explores themes of innocence, survival, and the global systems that exploit vulnerable people. The catastrophe that destroys humanity is ultimately engineered by Crake. He creates a virus that spreads rapidly across the world, disguised as a miracle pill. The plague wipes out almost everyone. Crake is killed, and Snowman becomes the caretaker, or possibly the accidental leader of the Crakers. Snowman, Crake, and Oryx each represent a different response to suffering: emotional vulnerability, cold logic, and quiet endurance. Their relationships give the novel emotional depth and a sense of tragic inevitability. Atwood's narrative style is one of the most striking aspects of the novel. She uses third-person limited perspective, staying close to Snowman's thoughts. The writing is poetic, lyrical, it almost feels like a dream. But she tries to satirize the corporate society before the apocalypse. The novel goes back and forth between the past and present, showing how the world fell apart piece by piece. One of the central ideas of Oryx and Crake is the ethics of scientific progress. Atwood raises questions about how far genetic engineering should go and what happens when innovation is driven by profit instead of responsibility. The novel also critiques extreme capitalism, showing a society where corporations effectively replace governments. Another major theme is environmental destruction. Atwood imagines a world where human beings have damaged the planet to the point of no return. Apart from these big ideas, the novel also tries to explore topics like loneliness, memory, and the need for meaning. Snowman's struggle to communicate with the Crakers reflects a broader struggle of humans trying to understand themselves and also the world they create. The Crakers also serve as a symbol of both hope and loss. They represent a possible future but also are a reminder of a world that humans fail to preserve. To sum up, Oryx and Crake is a haunting and thought-provoking novel that imagines a future that is shaped by our current choices, especially those involving technology, power, and the environment. Through its complex characters, rich world building, and sharp social commentary, Margaret Atwood's novel offers us a warning towards a future where we might be headed toward, and also reflecting on what it really means to be human. Thank you for watching. If you haven't read the novel, I highly recommend it.